So you have seen that the standard library gives us the capability to read from or write to the console. Now in this lesson, we're going to look at a different part of the standard library that gives us several useful mathematical functions. So on the top, we're going to use the include directive one more time to include a file called cmath. This file declares a bunch of useful mathematical functions. Now if you're curious what these functions are, just go to Google and search for cmath reference. There are many different websites that give you a C++ reference. One of them is c++.com. The other is cppreference.com and so on. So as an example, let's look at this page. So over here, you can see all the functions declared in the cmath library. In this lesson, we're going to look at a couple of them. One of them is ceil, which rounds up a value. The other is floor, which rounds down a value. Now, if you click on any of these functions, you can learn more about it. So on the top, you can see different versions of C and C++. So C90 and C99 represent the old C language. C++98 is one of the early versions of C++ that came in year 1998. Then we have C++11 that was released in year 2011. So you can see how this function has evolved over different versions of C or C++. Now don't get hung up too much about these details. All I want you to pay attention to here is that this function takes an input of type double and returns another double. So let's see this in action. So back to the code. Here in the main function, to use the floor function, we type floor followed by a pair of parentheses, and then we supply the input value, which is called an argument. So we pass 1.2. Now we get a double value that we can store in a variable. So let's declare a variable of type double called result and set it to the return value of the floor function. And then we terminate this statement with a semicolon. Now over here, we say that we are calling the floor function, which means we are executing it. We are giving it a value and getting a new value. Now we can print the result just like before, and the result is 1. Okay? Now some functions take multiple values or multiple arguments. One of them is the pow or power function. So let's take a look. Pow requires 2 arguments. Here we need to pass 2 values separated by a comma. So if we say 2, 3, that means 2 to the power of 3. Now when we type this, CLion adds these labels lcpp_x and lcpp_y. These are the name of the parameters of this function. So CLion adds this to make our code a bit more understandable. Okay? Now, if we run this, we get 8. Okay? Now, as an exercise, I want you to write a program that asks the user to enter the radius of a circle, and then it should print the area of a circle. It's pretty easy. You can knock it out in a couple of minutes. All right, here's my solution. First, we use cout to print a label, enter radius. Then we declare a double variable called radius. Next, we use cin to read the value the user enters into this variable. Now we declare another variable called area. And here we have to use the old formula, pi times r to the power of 2. So we can type the pi number here, but earlier I told you that we should avoid magic numbers as much as possible. So we're going to store this value pi in a separate variable. Or even better, we can make this a constant. Okay? Now we can say area equals pi times, this is where we use the power function to get radius to the power of 2. As simple as that. Now finally, we use cout to print the area. Let's test our program. So if we enter 4, the area is 50.24.